are tackling the arms of the government. And I am not going to do this alone. I am joined by one advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He is what's the word? He deserves the right. He deserves the title in his own right. He'll introduce himself, and then we will get the discussions going. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Omega Ochieng, an advocate of the High Court. I've been in practice since the year 2020. That is when I was admitted. So this is my 5th year in practice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
Okay,
yes.
Pleased to have you. And maybe before we get to the discussion rolling, let me just ask, how has it been for you as a lawyer the past 5 years since you said you've been active?
Well, the legal profession generally it demands some toughness.
Yeah.
It's not an easy ride. It's been quite tough. I remember when I was just admitted to the bar. 2 months down the line, we went into a shutdown, the COVID-19. So it was a really difficult time for me at that time. I didn't have any formal employment, but I managed to maneuver. Right now, I can say at least I'm a bit stable. I run my own practice. I have a law firm, Omega and Associates Advocates. I'm based at Hurlingham. I'm at Upper Hill. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get to the topic, or to what has brought us here today, the arm of the government.
Yes.
Perhaps you can start by telling us a bit about what the arm of the government is and what it entails.
Okay, thank you. Now, the government is made up of 3 arms.
Yes.
At the most top part is the executive, then we have the legislature, and now the judiciary. Now the executive, these provisions, the law that provides for these arms of government are provided under the Constitution. Chapter 8 talks of the legislature, Chapter 9 talks of the executive, and then Chapter 10 talks of the judiciary. Now, the legislature, if I may start with the legislature. The legislature is made up of the National Assembly and the Senate.
Okay.
So the National Assembly comprises of members who represent the constituencies, 290 members. We also have women representatives who are also part of the National Assembly, and we have representatives of minority groups and special groups. So that is the National Assembly. We also have the Senate. The Senate is made up of the senators from the 47 counties. We also have representatives who are appointed. I think there are about 16. Then we have also representation by the minority groups, the youth, the youth, the people with the special needs, and women.
Okay.
Yes. Then now that is the legislature. We go to the executive, which is also provided for under the Constitution, Chapter 9, as I've said. The executive is made up primarily of the president, the deputy president, and the cabinet. The cabinet, as we understand, is the various cabinet secretaries who are appointed by the president. That is not all. We also have the office of the Attorney General ideally falls under the executive, and also the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. I will say those are offices that are under the executive arm. Then after that, now we go to the judiciary, the other arm of government. The judiciary now is ideally the court system, which is provided for under Article 159 of the Constitution. That is Chapter 10. The judiciary, ideally, this is the system of the court, and it is headed by the Chief Justice, assisted by the Deputy Chief Justice, Those are the offices established under the Constitution. Then we have judges of the Superior Court. We have judges of the subordinate, not judges, but magistrates of the subordinate courts. Ideally, those are the magistrates, and also other officers of the judiciary. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for
Yes.
that. You have said that the one who heads the judiciary is the Chief Justice.
It is the Chief Justice.
The one who heads the executive is obviously
The president.
So who heads the legislature?
Now, the legislature, ideally, we have a member who is an ex-official member, and that is we have in the two houses, the National Assembly, we have the Speaker of the National Assembly, and for the Senate, we have the Speaker of the Senate. So those ideally are the heads, but they're ex-official members. Yes.
So those are the ones in charge.
Those are the ones in charge of the legislature, per se.
Okay.
Yes.
So just for context purposes, what is the difference between the Senate and the National Assembly? What is it that the Senate can do that the National Assembly cannot do? And what is it that the National Assembly can do that the Senate cannot do?
Now, the National Assembly ideally concerns itself with matters that are of national interest. We look at one of the functions that they have is to allocate and appropriate the finance, the revenue, the national revenue to the different levels of government. On the other hand, the Senate ideally is concerned with the counties. And also one of their roles is to consider and appropriate the finance allocation to the counties. So the two roles are a bit, they may look the same, but ideally the Senate is more concerned with the county governments, but the National Assembly, which is a representation of the entire country, deals with matters of the national interest.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, according to my little history that
Yes.
I learned,
Yes.
the Chief Justice
Yes.
is appointed by the President.
Yes.
But then again, the President does not head the judiciary.
Yeah.
What makes the Chief Justice independent from the President, bearing in fact that it is the President who
appoints.
Yeah.
Now, we go back to the process of appointment of a chief magistrate. Much as it is the president who appoints, but it is through the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission. The president does not wake up and appoint a chief justice just out of the blue. It has to be a recommendation by the Judicial Service Commission, and ideally they normally come up with a list, then they take it to the president, then from that list the president will appoint one. Then after the appointment, it goes through the approval of the National Assembly. So much as it will be seen on the face value that it is the president who has appointed, but it is not ideally the president who appoints. The president only collects the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission, then selects from that list the person that he thinks is better placed to serve as the Chief Justice.
Would one feel like they owe the President something if, for example, I'm the Chief Justice and the President wants this to happen? Don't I owe the President in some sort of way what he wants passes?
Now, immediately after a Chief Justice has been appointed, you know, the different arms of government, much as they are correlated, they're supposed to act independently. In fact, now the role of the judiciary, the independence of the judiciary is provided for under the Constitution, Article 160, which states that while performing its functions, the judiciary shall act independently. So the Chief Justice is not supposed to take direction from any other person. He's supposed to act she is supposed to act independently, or the office bearer of that office supposed to act independently without any coercion or direction from any other arm of government. Yes.
Still on the same, when it comes to the legislative, the legislature, the legislative arm of the government, we have instances, for example, case in point, the current finance bill, and we have, because a majority of the members in the August House,
Yes.
or also known as the Parliament.
The Parliament.
A majority of the members of Parliament are from the president's side or from
Yes.
the president's corner.
Yes.
And now that if the president wants something,
Yeah.
do they really have to do what the president wants, given that they come from his political party, or do they have the free will to make choices based on maybe their constituents or maybe on their sober-mindedness?
Now, when members of the National Assembly are voted in, they are voted in based on democracy.
Yes.
And they're supposed to be a representation of the people. In fact, that is provided for under the Constitution. One of the role of the National Assembly is to act as a representative of the people. So, per se, that means what the members of Parliament are supposed to take into account is the aspirations of the people and not the directions that are given by any other person. But at times it becomes very difficult because now, based on what has just transpired when this finance bill was being debated on, most members of Parliament turned a blind ear to what the people were saying and took a direction that was completely different. And you've seen them retracting from that and most of them apologizing. What they're supposed to do is to go to listen to those people who
elected them.
You know, and I normally tell myself, a member of Parliament is an employee of the people.
Yes.
It is the people who employ them.
True.
And when they go to that August House, what they're supposed to do is to act on behalf of the people who elected them. So when they act in contrary to the aspirations of those who elected them, then they are not fulfilling the functions that they were taken there in the first place to do. Yes.
Now, you talked about the judicial system being under the judiciary, but then again you mentioned that the Attorney General is part of the executive.
Yes.
The Directorate of Public Prosecution is under the executive. Shouldn't they all be part of the judiciary?
No. The DPP is an independent body. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecution is an independent body. It ideally deals with prosecution of matters on behalf of the government. The Office of the Attorney General or the Attorney General is the chief legal advisor to the government. So both the DPP and the Attorney General, they are supposed also to act independently. However, in most cases you find that the Attorney General, being that he is the chief legal advisor, he is more affiliated to the part of the president because he will take directions and sometimes advise based on what he has been required to do because he is supposed to give only legal advice to the president and to the government. Yes.
Back to the DPP, maybe I'll turn here quite a number of times. Is the Directorate of Public Prosecution.
Yes.
Of course, all these prosecutions are going straight to the judiciary, right?
Yes.
Because of course the only place you can be prosecuted to
is the court,
right?
yes.
And the legal system belongs to the judiciary.
Yes.
In as much as it's the legislature who comes up with the laws, the one who
interpretation of the law and application of the law, that is the role of the judiciary. Yes.
Why not have the DPP under the judiciary? Because I personally feel the very fact that the DPP is under the president, he cannot even prosecute the president himself because he's under him.
Well, number one, if we go back to the old regime, the old dispensation of the Constitution, now, before then, we had the matters pertaining to prosecution fell directly under the Office of the Attorney General. And those are the times when we had police officers who were acting as prosecutors. Now, with this new constitution, there was that distinction between now the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution and the Office of the Attorney General. Ideally, it is the same thing, but the prosecution, the DPP deals with matters criminal. The Attorney General might deal with matters which are civil in nature, but they are the same thing. So it is not possible for you to say that now the prosecution ought to have fallen on the part of the judiciary, because the prosecution ideally deals with prosecuting matters on behalf of the government. Yes, on behalf. Because you see, when you are arrested, even if you look at how the matters are normally listed on the cause list, it is republic versus somebody.
Someone, yeah.
Republic versus someone. So it is the republic that is prosecuting the matter, and that is now where the DPP comes in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to the members of parliament versus the judiciary.
Yes.
There are times when a bill or an amendment has been done and the court stops it. How does that work? What gives the court the mandate to stop them from doing what they are apparently, quote unquote, supposed to be doing?
Well, we go back to the Constitution.
Of course.
What is the role of the judiciary? The role of the judiciary ideally is to interpret and apply the law. The application and the interpretation of the law.
Yeah.
Now, when a bill has been passed, and the bill in some way infringes on some specific rights or guaranteed rights under the Constitution, or the bill is not in tandem with the aspirations of the people, then the law also allows any other person, it could be a petitioner, a general member, any member of the public who approaches the court and specifies to the court that a certain bill does not fulfill or is not in tandem with the Constitution. And now, the question as to whether that bill, in fact, is not in tandem with the Constitution falls ideally on that is now the role of the judiciary to determine. If you look at the provision there that I've talked about from Article 159 going downwards, the role of the judiciary is to interpret the law. Wherever there is any issue with interpretation, you approach the court for that interpretation. And that is now where now the court will look at a bill, establishes that some certain provisions of that bill are not consistent with the Constitution, and suspends or recommends that the bill be reviewed in some way. Yes.
Is the court able to revoke or to nullify a bill on its own without someone reporting to it?
No, it is not possible. The court does not act. There's a term we use, a legal term, suo motu. Suo motu means acting on its own motion. The court does not act in its own motion. It acts after there is a petition that has been presented before it. So in most cases, there has to be a petition by either a member of parliament, a member from the general public who goes to the court with that grievance and states through a petition that a certain bill ideally is not consistent with the Constitution, and the court now has to look at it and see whether exactly there is an inconsistency, and if there is an inconsistency, definitely it will recommend for it to be that is where now we have it suspended. Yes.
But wouldn't this be quite, I don't know whether to call it as unfair or biased? For example, if somebody notices there's something wrong with a certain bill, you go report it to the court, and maybe your lawyer is not good enough, and the government's lawyer or the other house or the parliament's lawyer is strong enough. See, this law will just pass.
Well, the interpretation of the law, in most cases, much as we can also rely on how the lawyers present the case, but it is upon the judges who consider the matter on merit. They just don't decide on who has made a better presentation than the other.
Okay.
It is based on what has been presented, and they look at it from an open mind, from a perspective, an independent perspective, and they come up with their own conclusion based on what has been presented before them.
Lately, there has been an uproar against lack of confidence in the judicial system.
Yes.
What do you think is triggering this, and how do you best reaffirm us that we don't have to lose confidence in the judiciary, especially being that your line of work is directly linked to the judiciary?
I may not be in a position to defend the judiciary from the public perspective of the public. But, well, there are instances that it is almost undisputable
Yes.
that some decisions are made in favor of some certain arm of government. But the judicial officers are supposed to undertake their role and mandate independently without any direction from any quarters or from any other arm of government. So I know there is a perception that the judiciary has gone to the executive
side, yes.
and well, those are the things that are happening. I may not be in a position to defend that because it is in the public knowledge, but a judicial officer is supposed to deliver his mandate independently without any direction, but I'm afraid to say that is not the case right now. Yeah.
So what you are basically telling us, even as the finance bill and the fracas that is ongoing right now in the country against the finance bill, all is needed is for one person to go to the courts and not expect the courts themselves to term the bill as not suitable.
No,
right?
Exactly. There has to be a petition, and a petition has to be presented at least by a person or several persons. But you don't expect the court to term any bill or anything else as unconstitutional when there has not, that grievance has not been presented before it. Yeah.
Is the argument that people do not want it good enough in court for a bill to be scrapped off?
Well, that cannot be a reason enough. The only reason that any bill can be rejected or be set aside by the judiciary is only if there are some aspects of that bill which are unconstitutional, which do not go in tandem with what the Constitution provides. Then that alone in itself is a basis for the court to consider that and also to make a decision as to whether to set it aside or not. Yes.
Right now, we have the ongoing police are bad, police are good, here and there kind of debate that is going on. Is it also true, or is it also safe to say that the courts, once again, cannot evoke an arrest warrant or sentencing for the police officers who are quote-unquote rogue, who are maybe caught on camera, caught on photos, killing protesters and stuff like that, that unless someone comes and reports it to the court, that the court cannot act?
Well, we have seen cases of where I can say the court cannot act on its own motion.
That is on anything?
That is on anything. There have been cases in the recent past where we have seen maybe something that has taken place and police have said they are reluctant to take action because no report has been made to them. Because police will only take action once a report has been made, and that is now they will act on the basis of that report that has been made. In the absence of such a report, then on what basis will they be acting? Yes.
Can the DPP, I know this is a very awkward question and the likeliness of this is close to nil, but can the DPP actually report these police officers to the court? Is it allowed?
Now, we have an independent body that is tasked with has the role of overseeing the actions that are done by the police. That is the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. Now, in most cases, if indeed there is a violation or there is a rogue officer who has been reported, now it is the role of IPOA to go and consider that allegation, make its own investigations, come up with a resolution, then recommend for that officer either to be charged or an internal disciplinary process to be taken against that rogue of police officer. But it cannot be that the court will act on a rogue officer without any presentation before the court or without any complaint having been brought before the court.
So even
in terms of a charge.
So even if today I am in bad books with the police officer, I just can't go straight to the court. I need to go through IPOA.
Well, if you have evidence, then you have to report that to IPOA. But if you have evidence of a specific police officer who has done that, then you can also make a report to the police station. Although now the role of the police IPOA is because now if you are reporting a police officer to another police station, then ideally you see there will be some bias. Now that is where now you are advised to approach IPOA and make that complaint to IPOA so that IPOA can take it up. Because if you take it to the police station, the police may not interrogate it or look into it with such, because they will be looking into the biased eye. Yes.
We say that the president is powerful,
Yes.
right? He's the big boss of the country.
He's the lead of government. Yeah.
But he's the leader of government,
Yeah,
right?
he's the head
And
of
these
government.
three are the arms of government,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But still, that means, but still, even with all that, his powers are limited, especially when it comes to these two different arms, that is the judiciary and the legislature, right?
Yeah.
To what extent, he is the leader, yes,
Yes.
but to what extent can he exercise his authority on these two? When can he come in now as the president?
Well, there is a doctrine that we refer to in law, the doctrine of separation of powers. This doctrine, ideally, it was brought up so that we have decentralization of power. Now, if we look at medieval times or times back, we had kings, and the kings, those times, there were both the court, there were both the president, and also the ones who make the laws.
Leaders, everything, yeah.
So the doctrine of separation of powers, it was brought up so that we have decentralization of power. And by so doing, we have checks and balances, so it's such that much as the president appears in the face value to be more powerful than the other arms of government, but he is also responsible and accountable to the other arms of government. So he is not there to do anything that he wishes at whatever way that he wishes to. There are those checks and balances that are brought in by the other, so that the three arms work together. Yes.
So, for example, in the judiciary, is there anything that he can do, that he is allowed to do, just because he is the president over the judiciary?
Over the judiciary, the only thing that the president has, maybe I can say, is the power of mercy. The power of mercy. That is where a person maybe has been sentenced, or a person is serving jail term, and the president can recommend that that jail term be terminated or the person be freed. Maybe that is the only thing. But on anything else, how a matter is being taken or how a matter will be handled, how a decision will be made, the president completely has no power over that.
What about on the legislative side?
Now, the legislative part, it is a bit different, because members of parliament are appointed on account of political parties.
Okay.
And it is also on the same account that the president is elected.
Yeah.
So ideally there is a conflict, because now the president can only marshal his troops through parliament, and that is how things have been happening.
Yeah.
If you have the larger numbers, definitely you have the day. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think that's all the time we had for today, and that marks the end. I think I still have so many questions, because now being a president is not all presidential at the end of the day. I thought, because the president can just say, whatever, Dandora and any jailer, and that's it. And I thought you could do something like that, but clearly you cannot. I still have more questions on maybe the lawmaking process. That's something maybe we'll do another day, where the president comes in, what he's allowed to do, what he's not allowed to do, what the members can do and what they cannot do.
Exactly.
It's a large conversation. And
Yeah,
I think
if we go to conversations about the arms of government, it is a very broad topic. Maybe even if you break it down, let's discuss about the executive. We can also take the whole day only on the executive. So this is a discussion that cannot end on a single session.
Thank you very much. That means you're coming back.
I'll come back definitely. If you invite me.
You are just to know you're almost being invited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Maybe you can give your last words.
Well, my last words will be that, well, we have elected the president.
Yeah.
We have also elected our members of the National Assembly. We have elected our senators.
Yes.
Let them act according to the will of the people, because that is where they derive their authority.
Yes.
They are not in those offices by their own powers or through their own effort, but it is through the votes of the people.
Of the people, yes.
So let them use those offices to exercise what they were supposed to do, and that is to represent the people and to act according to the will of the people. That is what I would say.
Thank you very much. Remember, we have had this a million number of times. Sovereignty belongs to the sovereignty, the power
Belongs
to
the
the people. Yes.
That is sovereign power.
Sovereign power
Yes,
belongs to the people. Thank you very much. Yes, so you are
so
the
much.
people we are talking about.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. If you see any injustice, go report it. If you don't report it,
No action will be
no
taken.
action. Like there cannot be a lawyer without a case.
Sure,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah, there needs to be a case, and it is upon you, it is upon me to report it. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you so
time.
much. Thank you so much.
That marks the end of today's Know Your Law. I do hope you had an amazing time. If you're joining us right now, it's the end, but you can always catch us on YouTube, on Facebook. This will be there, will be uploaded there on EBN TV. My name is Consolata Chibaloza. I was with Omega Ochieng. And until next time, God bless.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nashukuru.